Hey guys, we are back with the Screen Team right here on KWOC. A full hour of movie reviews for you. Coming up a little bit later on in the show, we are going to be featuring some movies about JFK. We're going to be doing 13 Days. We'll also be doing the movie Jackie and the Oliver Stone film JFK. But first up, we've got Chris in with us. Chris, it's good to see you again.
It's good to see you.
I usually have you come in and do Star Wars movies, but we're going to be doing something a little bit darker today.
That's quite all right.
Gangster film.
Love it.
Probably, Godfather. It's probably like the third greatest gangster film of all time.
Godfather and Casino. Goodfellas.
Goodfellas, man.
Yeah,
Goodfellas is where it's at.
Yes.
This movie came out in the early 1990s, and was this a movie that you saw in theaters? Or
It was. I got hooked by the Godfather series early on. Mm-hmm. Loved the whole Cosa Nostra, the family type films, and of course, I had heard talk of Henry Hill, and I hadn't read the book yet. I have since then, but based on his memoirs called Wise Guys, they made it into a movie, Goodfellas, and it was reasonably, it was reasonably close to the source material. Ray Liotta's big vehicle,
it kind of launched him into superstardom.
It did. And Joe Pesci
won an Academy Award for it.
Exactly. I mean, it's Joe Pesci's crowning achievement as far as serious bad guy. This and Casino. Yeah. This and Casino.
And of course, De Niro, too, man.
De Niro.
Paul Sorvino's in it as well.
Paul Sorvino. What was her name? His wife, Karen. Karen Hill. Karen.
Man. Why'd you have...
Karen.
That's good, man.
Karen.
Not a lot of people can do a good Ray Liotta, but
that's all I got.
That's all you got,
it.
man.
Yep.
That name will come to me. But so you mentioned family with the Godfather, and this kind of has some family elements as well. We learn from the very beginning.
Right.
Henry Hill, he wants to. His first line is, "I've always wanted to be a gangster."
That's right.
And
right.
You see, very on, he's had many opportunities to snitch on his fellow. On his fellow comrades, and he doesn't. They're like family to him.
He was the ideal wise guy. Mm-hmm. He could never be part of it because he wasn't Sicilian, but he was their ideal, lower echelon guy. He was loyal, he was smart, he was ambitious, and he had some sense to him, which, despite all the terrible things that these people do, you got to have some sense.
Yeah.
And you've got to have a little bit of a conscience, to be honest, And he did, within his own, borderline framework. He did. Yeah. I'm not saying he was a good guy. I mean, he got kicked out of the witness protection program, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
He just couldn't do it. But, he was a good guy until it came down to me or them. For the whole shooting match, when it came down to life or dedeath. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, I'm gonna take care of myself. Yeah,
right.
This movie, this is one of those rare movies that if you see it on basic cable, you stop and you watch it. Even if you watched it like a week ago,
right? Right. It is. It's one of those guilty pleasure movies because you can sit down, you can be walking through the living room, after making yourself a sandwich, going back to do whatever project you had going on, and you see, oh, Goodfellas is on, and you'll stand there and you'll watch it for a minute, and you'll slowly migrate to the arm of the couch, and an hour later, you're sprawled in the love seat. Sandwich is gone, and credits are rolling, and your wife is asking you why the project didn't get done. You're
Goodfellas.
Goodfellas
was on.
It is. It's one of those movies that it sucks you in. The pacing is great. The detail is enough for you to care, but it's not enough to bog you down.
Yeah.
Henry Hill, Ray Liotta's portrayal of Henry Hill, he comes across as a little bit of a nicer guy than he actually was. Mm-hmm. But that being said, he still, amongst his peers, was thought of, and they've said this in interviews before, he was a nice guy.
Yeah.
Within that framework again. You've got to keep that in mind. Amongst a bunch of, dirtbags, he was a nice guy. So, it was a great movie, and it was an excellent, excellent movie to show you how and why, really, the organized crime, the smart ones, the ones who knew what they were doing. Stayed away from drugs. Mm-hmm. They stayed away from drugs because this movie shows you exactly how drugs will screw up a good thing.
Right.
You know, even if your good thing is bad, you know, drugs will make it worse. You know, Paulie told him, I don't want you or anybody involved with me to get into drugs. I'll kill you myself.
Yeah.
And that's what it was. The old timers had it down. They knew. And this is the story of what happens when you don't listen to the experienced old guys, honestly.
Favorite scenes? Like, the whole movie is awesome, but do you have any favorite scenes?
The whole movie is great. One of my favorites is early on when Henry Hill and Karen are first dating, mm-hmm. and she goes out with this prep guy across the street, drives the Corvette.
Yeah.
And you know, she gets taken advantage of, and she doesn't know who to turn to, and she calls Henry Hill, and Henry comes over and pistol whips the crap out of him, without a second thought. Comes back, tells her to hide the bloody gun, and walks off. You know, that was on the one hand, he's laying claim to Karen as his woman, yes, but on the other hand, he's also making it clear to those around her that she's not to be messed with, and right. Yeah, it was a terrible scene, and it meant bad things for their relationship, but it stuck with me. Yeah. That was a good one. I
love the scene where it's shortly after that they get married, you know, mm-hmm. and there's like a whole line of people giving to their
right, you know? Right, just handing them money, just envelopes,
and then they go and dance like a scene later, and she's like, "Oh, what about the money?" Uh-huh. And he's like,
"Nobody's going to touch the money." Nobody's going to touch the money. It's fine.
And, of course, in typical Scorsese fashion, if you didn't know he's the one who directed this film, he just incorporates, like, he's like pre-Tarantino. Like, he incorporates popular music into his movies
absolutely.
So well. You know?
Absolutely. The soundtrack was so timely. It represented not just the time, but the feelings of the time, you know. It wasn't just music from that era. It was music that expressed the feelings in that geographical area at that time. You know, people in that station in life would have been listening to.
Yeah.
He's really good at it, much like Tarantino, and I think Tarantino has mentioned before that, you know, he's a Scorsese fan,
right?
You know, that's part of where that comes from, and Tarantino he's awesome for that. Music is such a big part of all of his films, and Scorsese does the same thing a lot. It's scaled back. It's a lot more subtle, but yeah, absolutely. You know, time. Appropriate music, mood, not just time, but mood appropriate music, and it's really masterfully done. Another scene, you were talking about scenes that we like. Another scene that really sticks with me. It's brief, but it's powerful. It's De Niro in the phone booth getting the call.
Oh
about you know, it didn't go so well. There was a problem when Joe Pesci got whacked for taking out the mob guy in the bar.
Yeah.
You know, De Niro's portrayal of the
Get your shine box. What are you trying to say? You trying to say I'm funny? I'm a clown?
Yeah. What? I amuse you? I'm here for your amusement? No, I'm just that. And that meme that it goes around online all the time of Ray Liotta and the other guys just losing it is just fantastic.
And I think that scene was totally
ad-libbed.
Yeah. Ray Liotta didn't know that Joe Pesci was going to do that.
The surprise on his face was real. Like, we're doing this? What do you mean?
Yeah,
okay,
so good.
Page 37 has none of this. I don't know where you're going with this.
You know, Chris, man, I could talk about this movie forever.
It's a great movie. You know, it's deep, but it's lighthearted. It's real life, but it's far enough removed from anybody who's watching this show. You know, anything they've done or experienced, probably.
Yeah.
You know, that they can enjoy it as entertainment. One little bit of trivia I learned recently is that at the same time that this movie came out, there was a throwaway movie with Steve Martin called My Blue Heaven.
Oh, yeah.
A terrible movie. Just a terrible movie. Based on the same guy. Steve Martin's character is Henry Hill. Yeah. And it takes... My Blue Heaven picks up fictitiously, of course, where Goodfellas leaves off, where Henry Hill is stuck in witness protection hell.
Right.
So it's the same character portrayed in two different ways. It's a real throwaway movie, but evidently the wife of the producer of Goodfellas was the director of My Blue Heaven, and she picked up all the info for this movie in her side conversations with Henry Hill while he was talking to the director. So that's how My Blue Heaven got made. And don't rent it.
There you go.
Just don't. I mean, I saw it once. It was enough.
He's Chris. I'm Chris. We're part of the Screen Team. Make sure that you check out Goodfellas. We'll be back with Amber, and we're going to review the movie Nocturnal Animals. It's coming your way next, right here on the Screen Team.